2, 1.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Golf clap. Golf clap to start. Don't hate it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk Tiger podcast. So this is part of the Corked Bats podcast network. This is part 1 of a limited run podcast presented by Corked Bats. Would this be the first limited run, a limited edition, limited series podcast for Corked Bats?
Yeah, I think this is the first mini series that Corked Bats has had a hand in with anything. So we did write a years ago. We did write a 10-part Mighty Ducks 4, but that was just a blog, so I don't know if that counts. That was done by the hand of the great Chris Nestor wrote that one.
That's
and
awesome.
It was fantastic. So
that's incredible. But yeah, so limited edition, limited series podcast here with Corked Bats. My name is Kenny Ashton. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Corked Bats movie, TV, entertainment, just fun stuff podcast, the Cineboys.
Great podcast, by the way. Not sorry to interrupt, but great podcast. You guys, if this is going on the Cineboys feed, right?
Yes.
So look, you're already here on the feed. Go ahead and hit subscribe because if you love movies even half as much as I do, you need to go and listen to the Cineboys because they're great. And Kenny is one of the boys. Are you the main boy? The main boys?
I would say that I do probably most of the talking. I wouldn't say I'm the main boy. I just can't shut up.
You're the Iron Man of the Avengers, basically.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. I
did say you look like 90s Robert Downey Jr. before we came on with your hair. I love the flow, dude.
Drier hair, but yes, I see it.
If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, that it should give you more incentive to go and watch on YouTube to see Kenny's luscious flow.
Right. We're both, I mean, you as well, man. You just look so handsome. You got the beard, the COVID beard. It's a good, obviously it's going to sound great if you want to listen to it like in your car, but if you really want the full effect, you're going to want to hop over to YouTube for this. But of course, yes, you've already heard my co-host in this endeavor. He's, I would say, the godfather of Corked Bats Nation. Is that too much?
No, kiss the ring, dude. It's for sure, without question. Does that make me the Marlon Brando?
Sure.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I've never seen Godfather, to be honest with you.
Well, you're gonna need to fix that.
Yeah, I shouldn't be saying that on a movie podcast, but that is one of that's the go-to of what movie have you never seen that people would be pissed at you about? That's my answer.
Well, hey, man, it's a movie and sports podcast this time. We say all the time on Cineboys, this is not a sports podcast, even though we end up talking about sports.
But we technically have a feud right now,
right?
Because my podcast, The Junk Drawer, we have a feud, and it's hosted by 2 Titans fans and a Steelers fan. And the Cineboys is hosted by just 4 straight up Chiefs fans. And so we've got beef for whatever reason. And we actually addressed it on our latest episode. And I know you guys address it. You guys keep stirring the pot.
I know.
But it's easy. Look, when you carry the spoon, it's easy to stir the pot. So.
It is. And here's the other thing too, is that I realize that when we record, it's usually before football games happen. And then we release it after the football game has been played. So we say things and then we feel, in this instance, we said something, then both the Titans and Steelers lose, and then we just look like jerks. And
I think we both kind of expected, at very least, a rematch of the AFC Championship game. But
yes,
Titans suck.
I was planning on playing the Titans next week. But.
Yeah, I was hoping at very least for a trip to Arrowhead just because it meant they advanced. But
right.
It's cool. The Ravens stomped on the logo, so
yeah. Yeah, but also my co-host is one of the co-hosts of the Junk Drawer podcast, and here's my favorite stat: he is a one-time Academy Award ceremony attendee.
That is true. Yeah, I was a seat filler at the 90th Annual Academy Awards.
You need to put that in front of everything you do, man. Just like Academy Award attender. Austin Huff.
I should put it in my Twitter bio at very least. It was one of the coolest things in the world. And it's honestly if you ever get the opportunity, which the opportunity is very hard to come by, but if you ever get the opportunity, drop everything you're doing to do it. It was one of the most surreal things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. And you were on TV. Like, that was the best part about it, was that literally I remember watching and being like, that looks like Huff. And then seeing things on Twitter. I guess Rome tweeted something about it. And then a friend of mine said something about it. I was like, that was Austin. Like,
yeah.
I actually had to rewind it and watch it again.
Gosh, the number of stories I could tell from that night alone. But it's funny because there was one seat filler who it's kind of by chance where you sit. And most of the time, like if anyone ever comes back to their seat, you have to get up. Mm-hmm. One girl, seat filler from the very first commercial break, got to go in and sit in Denzel Washington's seat, who did not show up to the Oscars until literally right before the Best Actor award was given out. So she got to sit front row next to, oh gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Greatest actress of all time, Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep, sitting right next to Meryl Streep, front row, front and center, and for the entire show. So she was on TV probably more than anyone that day. And then lo and behold, luckily, like right before Best Picture award, when everyone's tuning in, this dumb mug got flashed on TV next to Ashley Judd and what's her name? Marino, the Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Mira Sorvino.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. So yeah, just next to those two. So classic times.
Well, hey man, I'll tell you what, it's good to have you. This feels right.
It does feel good. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this insane tiger documentary.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get you into the old podcast Corvette and take you for a spin. So let's do it.
Let's take this Corvette for a spin.
Yeah, man. So
I'll be Ferris and you'll be you be Ferris because you got the hair. I'll be the
Cameron.
Yeah.
That's fair. I get it. All right. Well, so yeah, this podcast essentially, here we are at the intersection of film and sports. We've been waiting for this. And really what this podcast is, it's a companion piece to the HBO 2-part documentary Tiger. Part 1 aired this last Sunday, and then part 2 is going to air this coming Sunday. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's a documentary about Tiger Woods, directed by
aptly named. Yeah, aptly named in that case.
Yeah, I wonder how long it took for them to kind of figure that out, what they were going to name it. Should we call it Woods?
Like, I don't know. What does he have a distinguishable name?
Yeah.
All right, let's just call it that.
Yeah. Directed by Matthew Hamachek and Matthew Heineman and produced by HBO Sports. Our main goal with this podcast is simply just to share our thoughts, feelings, hot takes, etc. We'll kind of go through it chronologically, but I mean, for the most part, it's more to just talk about it. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, we do recommend maybe stopping this podcast right now, going and watching it, and then you can come back and pick up where you left off.
Yeah. Or there are spoilers. He wins the 97 Masters.
So just in case you had that recorded and we're waiting to watch it, sorry.
It's on your TiVo. You have to like dust off, not even your TiVo, your VCR. You have to just dust it off and put the tape.
Right. You just got the tape labeled with a Sharpie.
Yeah, it's like Home Alone is scratched out and you have to write Tiger's Masters over top.
So go watch it because there will be spoilers. We're going to talk about pretty much everything that happened in part 1. Or don't come back. We'll still get credit if you listened up to this point. So hey, there you go.
Yeah,
you should definitely come back.
No, but come back because to be honest with you, episode 2 is where like the juicy stuff comes out.
Oh yeah.
I'm very excited for episode 2, but episode 1 was great. I got to ask you, Kenny, of all the documentaries you've seen in your life, which I'm sure you've seen countless documentaries, has there ever been a documentary with a cast of characters with better names than this one?
They're good. I can't think of anything in particular where there's just some names that you look at and you're like, they're not unpronounceable, but also like you don't know for sure.
Right. Which like a documentary about a guy named Tiger, like it only makes sense to have like every character have or every person that, gives an interview for this thing have like a ridiculous name. And like, I just want to run down some of these. You got, first of all, Sir Nick Faldo, which we all know Nick Faldo.
Right.
Nick Faldo. Great name.
Yeah.
Dina Parr. First of all, Tiger's first girlfriend, last name of Parr. That's phenomenal. No wonder he broke up with her. He wanted something under her.
Yeah.
Robert Lucetich. Obviously, we all know Robert Lucetich.
Mhm.
Thomas Bonk.
Bonk.
Amber Loria. Hootie Johnson. That's the chairman of the Masters. Hootie Johnson.
That's great.
Like, I've loved the Masters for a long time. I think I love the Masters even more. Obviously all of their racism and past history aside.
Not great.
Not great.
Yeah.
The name Hootie Johnson though is great, and I'll argue that with anyone. And then you also have Gary Smith. So
Yeah.
all right, maybe we shouldn't have ended on that one, but
Gary Smith. What a name. I don't even think I could pronounce Sandra Cyberage Westfall. I don't know if that's right or not.
I'm glad you took a shot because I wasn't about to.
I apologize. Obviously, she's probably listening. I do apologize.
Right. Elan's friend and also writer. So, let's be honest. She only got into the documentary because she's Elan's friend.
Right.
She probably was like, she probably had that written in her contract. Like, look, I'll do the interview, but you have to say I'm a writer. And they're like, all right, you're a writer and Elan's friend.
And Elan's friend. We don't have you here because you're a writer, Sandra. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I here's one thing too that I feel like they missed the opportunity here with marketing. I feel like every picture marketed for this documentary is just like Tiger's face. I feel like they could have done a little bit of fist pumping in there.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I counted the number of fist bumps in this documentary. So I want to ask you, can you guess the number of total fist bumps? And I broke it down. I have both big fist pumps,
mm-hmm.
or well, actually, yeah, I have big fist pumps and then just total number of fist pumps.
Okay. So I would.
And like we all know the signature Tiger
So like
Woods.
the big one is this.
Yeah, the big one is the undercut punch that you would see in like a Mortal Kombat finishing move.
Right.
That is the big fist pump. And then the little fist pump we've seen that,
Like
the Tiger.
pumps.
Yeah, just the little subtle, like he's
gotcha.
holding the shake weight, just all right.
My guess, oh man, I would probably say somewhere around 46.
You actually way overshot that one. I should not have. Oh man, yeah.
Well, I wasn't like paying attention. Like it's just one of those things where it's like you've seen him do it so much.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, no, and that's the thing too. It's like, and they showed so many highlights from Masters, PGA Championship, U.S. Open, like every tournament he's ever played in. They showed him, and in every tournament, especially during that 12-year run where he's just absolutely dominant. Just so many like, let's go.
Yeah.
So total number of, I'll give you the total number and I want you to tell me how many you think. He had 18 total fist bumps in the episode.
Okay.
How many were big ones?
I'm gonna guess half of them were big. I'll say 9.
Dude, you nailed it. It was exactly 9. Give yourself a big fist bump.
There's number 10. We should see we'll try to go for over under part 2 on fist bumps.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it right now. So over under, if there was 18 in this one, I'm going to say there's got to be less fist pumps in the second one.
I agree. I feel like there's going to be a lot more hard times for Tiger coming.
A lot more head dropping. Yeah,
yes.
A lot more like rubbing your eyes.
Right. Yes. Yes. I'll say total. I would say for the over under, I'd say 6.
6? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to almost double that. I'm going to say 11.
Okay.
Just because I'm factoring in the very end, there's got to be some sort of montage at the end. where we're going to get a crap ton of. In fact,
That's a good
I should
point.
maybe almost go 18 again, just because based off of the end of just fist pump montage that they're going to have. Because I mean, if you remember The Last Dance, which the only reason we have this Tiger documentary is based off of the success of The Last Dance.
Right.
Based off of that and the montage they had with Eddie Vedder singing at the very end on the final episode, you know we're going to get something similar at the end of this 2-episode deal. Yeah. So I'm going to go 11. And that may even be underselling it. So
yeah,
I'm writing this down by
the whole. Yeah, good. The whole like end credit scene could just be a montage of fist bumps. Constant.
I wouldn't complain. In fact, that would actually be funny. It'll bring a little levity to the podcast or to the documentary. You know, after all of that like sex talk and him getting arrested and DUIs and drugs, just a montage of him just doing this.
Yeah,
you know, like
I'm back. I won the Masters again. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of speaking of like fist pumps and that kind of era of Tiger, like it's so easy. I feel like Tiger's become such a part of just like popular culture that you don't even think about him as a golfer anymore. Like it's just Tiger Woods. And so like to go back through those, like from like early 90s through like mid to late 2000s, like, and just remember like how insane he was, like how dominant he was at golf. Like that, I kind of forgot about that. So to just watch him have these like massive leads, I think it was like 2000 at Pebble Beach, where he had like going into the final round, he was up like how much, like, like 9 or
I think he was up 10. I think he was up 10 strokes going into the final hole. And Pebble Beach is like one of the most difficult courses
hard.
like ever. So like to not just have that kind of distance from any golfer, no matter what your score is, like that's just absurd. And I mean that's like what you would imagine like a pro golfer to have a lead on in like an amateur golf tournament. And he did that against other professionals on the hardest course possible. And then there was I think his first Masters, he was up 12 strokes going into the final hole or something.
Insane.
Like, and this is youngest. This is Tiger when he was at his youngest. You know, the Pebble Beach one was during the Tiger Slam, but like it's just crazy to think about. Like exactly like you said, like, and I think I had a better grasp on Michael Jordan's dominance through the 90s because, you know, something I was watching and I was living. I didn't always sit down to watch golf, especially at that age, like growing up. And I always knew about Tiger's dominance, obviously, and I read about it and heard about it, but I never truly sat down and watched it and just kind of reliving that. It really was like an eye-opening thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's fun too. Like it was fun. I think, you know, like or late 90s, early 2000s, I was like in junior high. So like to relive that through the eyes of like, you know, we've had good golf since Tiger Woods for sure. But nothing like that, like, you know, for like that consistently, I feel like. So to go back and kind of relive that as an adult is really fun. But yeah, I feel like that era, because to me, like being that age, it's more like Tiger's something that's marketed to me so I can buy Nike.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like,
without question.
It's not so much that I'm paying attention to like, I'm not watching golf when I'm in junior high.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not something I can sit and do.
Yeah. Like I remember him from the cover of like Sports Illustrated for Kids, you know, like that's like what I remember Tiger Woods as. And it was interesting to see. It was like just to see, first of all, him go from like the amateur level and even into college, just like as, you know, he was well known, especially in the golf scene of being incredible up and coming golf. But then the way like kind of Nike, like the minute he went professional, Nike transformed him into a brand. And that's what I think you and I know him best as is like, we knew him as the golfer, but we know him more so as the brand of Tiger and how he turned so many people into golf and people that probably wouldn't have been interested in golf otherwise.
Yeah. I think it was interesting too, like that first Nike campaign they talk about in the documentary. Like, I don't remember that. I think I was probably like too young to remember it or just, you know, forgot about it. But like, I didn't realize like how bold like that marketing campaign was in the 90s where it's like, hey, I can't even play on some golf courses.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa.
I didn't even know. That was the first time I saw that ad.
Right.
Was during the documentary. And I was like, And it was kind of freaky because it was like that's the kind of ad you would think you would see today.
Yeah, exactly.
But knowing that ad aired 25, 22 years ago, like that's it. First of all, it hurt to be honest. It was like, gosh, what a, like, damn it. Like, why are we still like, how is it still a thing? I mean, like, obviously, like we know, but like, it was interesting to see because, like Nike gets so much backlash nowadays for signing Colin Kaepernick to a deal and doing all that whole campaign behind him. But no, like Nike was at the forefront of this, a quarter of a century ago.
Right.
And this isn't anything new for what they're doing. People are like, oh, Nike's starting to lean left. It's like, no, first of all, it shouldn't even be a right or left thing.
Right.
Like people think like, oh, Nike's, only catering to black people. It's like, no, like they're trying to freaking at least use their voice, use their platform, use their marketing budget to deliver a good message. And it was really heartbreaking to see that this all started with Tiger back in the day.
Yeah. And that's like, they talk about it in the documentary too. Like that's a lot of pressure to put on a 21-year-old kid to kind of be like the face of a, not just like a sports advertising campaign, but something that has like a bit of a message to it. And kind of having to be the face of that and carry that weight. Because obviously they talk about it in the documentary, like, Tiger himself, like that's not really like, I don't think he felt comfortable with it. I don't think like he wanted necessarily to have that responsibility. And I think a lot of it too, like, one of the things that the first part of the documentary really goes in heavy about is Tiger's dad and how like he had these expectations of Tiger. And like for me, like I had already like I knew who Earl Woods was, but I also like didn't really have a concept of like, how like integral he was in Tiger's development as a golfer.
Right.
And so for them to kind of lay out like what Earl thought Tiger would be like golf was just like a small part of what Earl was thinking. It's like, no, Tiger's going to basically be the, second coming of Jesus. Like,
right.
He literally is going to change the world. And, like that's insane to put that on a kid. And then on top of that, you're doing it through something like golf, which is like a discipline like that, I mean, being the best at any sport, of course, is going to take so much hard work and dedication. I feel like with golf, like even more so sometimes, just because there's so much there. And so to like place all of that on him, like to me, immediately my thought was like, well, no wonder, like he's had these issues like in the past 10 years. But yeah, that's something that with Earl, like I never realized like how much of an expectation he was actually setting with Tiger.
Yeah, it was wild. Like it's like not just for Tiger to be the next great golfer. Yeah, you were like he was saying like openly, like I want him to be the next Gandhi, the next, Nelson Mandela. And what's wild is he was saying this when Tiger was still, 2-3 years old, and or maybe as a child, and it kind of became that. Like Tiger essentially became one of these like earth moving societal global phenoms that, and people probably did hold him in a high regard, like that you would for like a deity or something, like unhealthily probably, but yeah, like people probably did. And when you see the overhead shots of the golf courses and just the swarms of people following him, like that to me felt like a Jesus type character, like of people just like wanting to like get a touch of him, touch his coat, and touch his garments. Like that's what it felt like. And it's insane that Earl was talking about that at such a young age. And ultimately it came to be that, but they did paint Earl, and I think rightfully so, at least from what everyone was saying. And from what I knew about Earl going in, they kind of painted him to be, he was essentially the Carol Baskin of this Tiger documentary. Like he was the enemy from the get-go. And because he did. He transformed this 2-year-old into this machine, this robot, and it gave me shades of Todd Marinovich. Do you?
Yeah.
Like it totally like the. For those that don't know Todd Marinovich, like he was a kid that was raised by his dad to be an NFL quarterback, and never had a Big Mac in his life, never had a sip of Kool-Aid or any sugary drinks. Started working out in like 3rd grade or something, and ultimately, obviously he goes to USC, plays for the Trojans, then goes to the NFL for a little bit, but ultimately just got burnt out and started getting into drugs heavily. And it was really a sad story. And that's what it felt like. Now, to, I guess, Earl Woods' credit is Tiger didn't burn out on golf. I mean, he's still not burned out on golf. Right. Sure, he hit that deep valley, that deep well, but it was weird to like kind of see like, it's like, oh wow, Earl like, and the other thing from the documentary that stood out to me was the kindergartner teacher talking about how no one wanted Earl to come in on teacher, like parent teacher conferences because like they hated him. And the kindergarten lady who looked like she had no jaw, she no lower jaw. She said straight up, like, we wanted Tiger to play other sports, but his dad wouldn't let him. And to me, like, that's where I feel like that's where the negative side of Earl comes out, where it's like, dude, if you're not allowing your child to have a life, which he really didn't, I don't know if we can chalk that up. I think he was a loving dad and he was a good dad to Tiger, but in the terms of like building him into the machine that he became, I don't know if that's, I don't know. Who am I to say what good parenting is though? So
right, exactly. I mean, like that's the thing is that like it seems like when they talk about Earl or in the documentary when Tiger's talking about Earl, there's never any like real animosity or anything like that. There's times where we'll talk about him and it'll be like, oh, that's my dad.
Right.
Like I think it's very clear that like Tiger's love for his father is like undeniable. Like he absolutely loved his father. But there's still a lot of just like stuff within that relationship that, again, who are we to judge? But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff in that relationship that seems pretty dysfunctional. Like with Earl, obviously you said the kindergarten teacher mentioning they don't like having him around. The letter to Dina, Tiger's first girlfriend.
Can we talk about old Dina Parr for a bit?
Yeah. In that letter, though, I'm convinced Tiger Woods did not write that letter, or at least like somebody dictated to him what to write to her, because it just seems so strange.
First of all, I love a good conspiracy theory. So like if we're going to be Tiger letter truthers, I'm all for it.
Right.
Dina, first of all, totally Tiger's type, blonde.
Yep. I honestly, so when I watched the trailer, at first glance, I just thought it was Lindsey Vonn.
Major Lindsey Vonn vibes there.
Yeah.
Major Lindsey Vonn vibes, who ultimately ended up dating Tiger.
Yeah.
I love that's actually a great take. So Dina was his first girlfriend, which I think came in like high school, I guess.
Yeah, high school and I think college, from
but
what I remember.
I totally agree with you with the letter. There's not a chance Tiger wrote that. And if he did, like if it was his handwriting, he was told what to say. Because one, it came out of the blue, but like he basically wrote Dina a letter and just said, we're done. And I think you're exploiting me and my family. You're using us. Really weird stuff. And, they had home movies saying showing that he loved hanging out with Dina. So it's not like it kind of came out of the blue. But my question is him writing that letter, is that the modern day equivalent of that would be breaking up via text message, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Like that. And he would probably like sign it with like a tiger emoji.
Just draws a little tiger next to his name. Yeah. You're right.
Like that's what I don't know. It's a cold-blooded way to break up with someone, in my opinion.
Well, when you start a breakup letter with "I'm writing to inform you," as if it's like a business letter, like Like I would get it. Like I would think that it was more probably Tiger if it was like, "Hey Dina, I'm so sorry, but I
Yeah,
can no
right,
longer see
right,
you." Like that's a breakup letter. Like he basically sent her a memo.
right.
Like it's what it was. Like
It's
I'm writing
yeah.
to inform you that I will no longer need your services as my girlfriend. Like
It was like he was writing Reebok to turn them down for his brand endorsement deal.
yeah, right.
Poor Dina. Yeah,
Yeah,
she deserves better, to be honest. She should have gone. She should have hooked up with Phil Mickelson after that.
yeah, for sure. I think that like one of the things I took with their like obviously they interview her in the documentary. She
Yeah.
seems so level-headed, and it's like the
Yes.
things that she says like about her relationship and like who Tiger was during that time. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, obviously Tiger's not interviewed in this documentary, so like, who knows what he would say about stuff like this, but it seems really genuine, and I think she's great.
Do you think Dina still wants to get back together with Tiger?
Maybe. Is he single? Like, I don't know what his status
That is
is
a
right
good
now.
question. I don't think so, but
Hmm.
that's a great question.
Maybe there's
I
hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I think we turn this Tiger doc into a love story. And
Let's
I
do it.
think, yeah, like let's start the rumors. Like Dina wants to get back with Tiger. She Yeah, and you could hear it in her voice. Like,
Right.
the fact that she saved that letter, you don't save letters of people that like you don't want to end up with, like
That's true.
eventually.
Or like maybe she knew he was going to be famous and be like, this could be good for a
That's yeah,
documentary in about
that
30
too.
years.
Yeah. She's holding out. She's holding out for when he finally gets the majors title, and then she's gonna
Yeah.
sell it.
Yeah. You mentioned too, Phil Mickelson. And I
Oh,
think by far my favorite part of the documentary was Tiger big leaguing Phil with the 3-wood.
oh my God. I had no idea. Like that was news to me. I did not know that he did that he could do that he could
Right.
outdrive Phil with a 3-wood. But then that was such a good inside look into the mental games that he plays. And Stevie Williams, his old caddy, was the one telling that story. And like it's so true. Like that's why Tiger is so good. Not only are you like intimidated to play alongside him, but then he does stuff like that
Mhm.
where, because what did Phil say? Phil said like, he's like, do you normally hit the 3-wood that far?
Right.
And Tiger says, no, it's usually further.
Farther, man. That's so just like big league.
That
Like
is
I
boss
love
without
that.
question.
I love that. Yeah.
The Tigers, which I didn't know this. So the Tigers' mom gave Phil the nickname Hefty.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I legit thought that was a Jim Rome thing, because whenever Mickelson would be brought up on the show at all, there was a take about him. If a caller called in about him, no matter, whenever Phil Mickelson was mentioned, it wasn't Phil, it wasn't Mickelson, it wasn't even Lefty. It was
Mhm.
Hefty, always, always Hefty, which is to me one of the funniest nicknames, arguably in sports,
Right.
because Phil is a heavier set dude.
Yeah.
He
He's a
looks like a
bigger guy.
Pixar character.
Yeah. I think it is interesting that like how Tiger obviously like this pursuit of perfection and like everything he did to be the best. And then Phil like is just like, yeah, just naturally talented. That's got to be the most frustrating thing in the world when you have somebody like Phil Mickelson who's just like, yeah, I don't have to do all the same things you do. And
Yes.
I'm just like almost as good, like, some years even better than Tiger. Like, man,
That rang true in me, because obviously, like, I'm not like the biggest guy on earth. In fact,
right.
I'm one of the smallest. But the fact that like playing college football or even high school football, and like seeing dudes that were like twice my size,
Mhm.
but seeing them work out like half as much,
Yeah.
that was so irritating to me, because it's like, dude, you have the physical gifts. You were born with the size, with the strength, like with everything. If you worked as much as I worked, like I have to work so hard just to get to your level. And if you worked out that much, you could be great. You could be one of the greatest. And so I loved Tiger's angle when it comes to Phil, and that frustration that he would get, because he was chasing Phil with all the records in Southern California, because he was
Mhm.
6 years older than him. And he went on to so Phil kind of had that head start, and every one of, the Southern California records that Tiger was chasing were made by Phil. Right. But he didn't work near as much. And obviously, like we saw, like how much weight training became a thing for Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of on the forefront of that with golfers. It's funny to go back and see the old clips. You see all these golfers, these white dudes in these huge baggy golf tees and huge baggy khaki pants.
Right.
And that's not what you see today. Now you see these like form-fitting shirts with like, the Brooks Koepka level pythons.
Yeah.
Like, and Tiger was really the guy behind that. And it's crazy to think that the best golfer was also behind the one, like the strength movement in golf. And Michael Jordan was the same way in basketball. He was the one that started, okay, let's start lifting weights. Let's start getting physical and getting bigger and faster and stronger,
right,
to improve our game even better than it already is. So yeah, I love getting the behind the scenes look into the Tiger Phil rivalry.
Right. Well, I mean, as far as like natural talent goes, they showed clips of Tiger on the golf course at 2 years old, hitting the ball better than I can hit it as a 32-year-old. Like they showed that there. I think there was like one, he was like in the middle of the fairway and he hit a ball, and it was like, I was like, that's better than I can do.
Yeah.
Like I might get lucky and hit it farther and have a good shot every one in like 10 or 15 shots.
Yeah.
But that's damn. Like
the only thing I took solace in that with was like, it's like, okay, yes, he could outdrive me at 2 than he could right now, like at my age.
Yeah.
But could he pop a wheelie on his BMX bike at that age? Because I don't think so. I don't think he was doing anything but golf. So that was like, I kind of like knowing I was better at Tiger and like basically everything else in childhood,
right?
Knowing that all he did was golf, it made me feel a little bit better about myself.
Yeah. Like I'll challenge Tiger to movie trivia any day.
Right? I would play. Dude, I would play for keeps in a game of Pogs against Tiger.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, throw that slammer down, Tiger. Oh, you don't know how? Probably because you didn't have a childhood, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you can hit 300 par on a freaking par 5. Great, dude. Congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats. You know what I can do? I can jump rope.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah.
Oh man. That I mean, like, yeah, it's so funny to watch like those old videos of Tiger and like the kid, like again, we kind of touched on it, but like what we think of Tiger Woods now is like elite athlete, cool guy. Like that's typically what I think. And then you watch like videos of him in high school just being this awkward, nerdy, like like they show like video of him in the classroom and it's like, I went to high school. I know that guy. Like there's so many people I can think of in my past where I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like a kid I knew in high school.
Yeah.
And like that could have been Tiger Woods. Like that's pretty crazy.
Right. And not to like make it about physical appearance, but those teeth. Oh my gosh. Those things were longer than the second hole at Augusta. Like, just they went on for days.
He needed time for his head to catch up with his mouth. Like it took a while, but I mean, they're still pretty big, but like his head's a lot bigger now. So I feel like it's kind of like evened out.
Yeah. It's somewhat gotten to like proportionally okay sizes. Like his teeth are still pretty big. And it was made even more noticeable that time he lost his tooth. Do you remember that when he lost his tooth? Oh gosh, if you Google,
do you think they'll get to that in part 2?
Oh, I hope so. I honestly, that's one of the things on my list of like things I want to see in the next episode. Yeah. His tooth fell out like when he was dating Lindsey Vonn. He was like almost skiing, and if you Google Tiger Woods missing tooth, you'll see a picture of him with his tooth missing. I don't know, it may have been knocked out by Elin when she took the 9-iron to his face. I don't know. Again, something maybe we'll get to in episode 2. But my man's got a grill, and I don't put that lightly at all.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Something to look forward to for sure. The other thing, like, I don't really like Tiger's is his first name Eldrick?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I just thought his first name was Tiger.
That's Eldrick. In fact, that's on Jim Rome show. That's what we referred to Tiger as, was Eldrick.
Interesting.
Yeah, never called him Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eldrick. It seems to me like it feels like that Earl and what's his mom's name?
Called Tita. She goes by Tita. Yeah.
Tita. Earl and Tita. It felt like they were in the delivery room, and the guy comes in. He's like, "All right, what would you like to name?" And they're like, "I don't know. We can't decide between Elton, Drake, and Rick." And he's like, "Well, why don't we just combine the three?
Smash them together."
All right, Eldrick it is. Let's go. And that's what happened. That's the only explanation I can think of as to where the hell Eldrick came from. Because I don't know any Eldricks before Tiger Woods, and I honestly don't know any Eldricks after Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that's name I'd never heard before. And they don't even like really talk about it in the documentary. They just say it in passing when he's a kid, like they were doing a television interview, and it's like Eldrick Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah, it's
good to know.
I know, and you wouldn't know that from like just following him in his career, because he's everywhere he goes. It's Tiger. It's Tiger.
Right.
And it's crazy to think that it's his name is Eldrick. Now, I'm wondering if like combining names like that is just like a Woods thing. Like that's something that they do in their family. Because if you remember, Tiger goes on Oprah and she's like, "Are you black?" basically. And he's like, "I'm not African American. I like to call it Cablinasian."
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah. And it was like 5 different things all rolled into one.
Yes.
Word like races I didn't even like get out of Cablinasian. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. He was
Puerto
like,
Rican? I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, where does the Puerto Rican go into Cablinasian?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so he's like, I'm Caucasian, Asian, black.
Indian.
Yeah, Indian. And then was there another one? I feel like there was like a 5th race in there.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was something else.
Yeah, and it's just like, and he merged which he ended up receiving. I didn't realize he received as much flack for that as he
did.
But.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like being like white guys, like like the first instinct we have is like that doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, yeah, that's what like that's his race, but like obviously, and then they kind of talk about it too. Like I think it was like what's his butt? They had like a clip of running back Georgia.
Herschel Walker.
Yeah, Herschel Walker. That's right.
Yeah.
They had him talking about it, and it makes sense. It's like, you kind of mentioned how like, and then they even showed the stand up from Wanda Sykes where she was talking about like,
shout out Wanda Sykes.
Yes,
Wanda Sykes had a moment in this documentary. It was of all the pop cultural icons to pull from. Wanda Sykes got her call. So shout out Wanda.
Yeah,
a little airtime.
But her joke is like, it makes so much sense. It's like, well, like, he's all these different things, but the moment he gets arrested, black golfer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
no, it's a fantastic joke. And it's so true too. Like there's, truth in comedy. And yeah, it was, I loved what Herschel Walker said, because it gave perspective as to like, it was like, oh, dang, he's right. Like, it's not, if he goes into any store, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, wait a minute, is that dude half white, half Indian, half Asian, half Puerto Rican, half the whole shebang?" Like nobody's gonna think he's like a smoothie of races. They're just gonna see him and they're gonna say that's a black guy.
Yeah,
and it is something that us as white dudes, we don't think about crap like that. And I loved hearing that perspective, because it is so true.
It's all about perception as far as like how other people see it. So like, I think that was one of the things that, they kind of talk about where like, yeah, Tiger can say like, yeah, this is what I am. This is what I consider myself to be. But like, yeah, you said it, like nobody looks at him that way. Like Tiger, like to most people is like, he's a black golfer. Like, that's just where majority of people's minds are going to go. So I thought it was a really interesting point, because it's like, yeah, I had the same things. Like, why is that a big deal that he refers to himself that way? And it's like, okay, there's some perspective.
Yeah, but shout out the Woods for just making up new words.
Yeah, it's like it must be
Eldrick
like
Cablinasian,
where you just combine words, names, all that. So I mean, that's like a lot of the meat of it. Just like a couple of quick things that we should probably touch on before we go. Scuba diving. Yeah.
Why did the pot or the documentary just completely like casually just mention, oh and yeah, there was this point where Tiger got really into scuba diving.
Yeah.
Like I would have, like, if this was The Last Dance, if this was a 10 episode thing, I would have wanted an entire episode on Tiger getting into scuba diving because I have so many questions. Like, is this like how deep did he get into scuba diving? And there's no pun intended there. That like how like does he own his own equipment? Because is he one of those scuba diver guys, or is he just a guy that like whenever he's at the beach he likes to go on like scuba diving trips, like where it's still guided by someone else, or does he at home, does he have the tanks in his basement that he like brings with him on vacations? Because that is a totally different level of scuba diver guy than just just the casual, like you and me. Like if we went on vacation and we're like, yeah, we should do a scuba diving lesson.
Right.
Like I want to know more about Tiger's love for scuba diving, but I did love his reasoning for getting into scuba diving.
Yeah.
Was the fishies don't know me down there is basically what it was.
He's not famous to fish. So
shout out. Hey, fish, come on. Like why are fish not invested in golf like the rest of us? That's what I want to know.
They're dumb.
Nike needs a marketing campaign just for fish.
Yeah. For sure. And then his mom, Coltita, like maybe the scary, like she terrifies me. Like, I mean, they don't really talk about her too much because Earl is such this big personality that, there's not a lot to go off of. But the things they do say are like, give you the chills. Like, she's just so like.
And what they said in the documentary was like, she was kind of like the authoritarian in the family. Like she was the hard-nosed parent, which I would have guessed it would have been Earl based off of how much Earl wanted this for Tiger.
Yeah.
But like they talked about the one time he slept over at Dina's place when he was home from college and they got pissed about that. And he got, just ripped into by his parents, and his mom probably gave him the worst of it from, just between the two. So,
right.
But
yeah,
Tita, I would not want to, like people say like, oh, would you want to go golfing with Tiger? More than I would Tita. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Especially if she came up with the nickname Hefty. So like, not only is she like mean, like, or like, can be nasty, but like she can be like, she can jab you, like give you, just roast you when you're not least expect it.
Yeah. I'm scared of her. That's for sure. And then, I mean, really the last thing they kind of like, it's towards the end of the documentary, but they talk about John Grumman, who's the family friend, kind of paints this picture of what it was like to be on the golf course when Tiger was a teenager. And it was just Earl giving lessons to like blondes. And he's like, I don't even know where he found these women. And then they just add like the Winnebago to go get drinks and whatever else.
Winnebago.
Oh man.
Dude. Okay. So the Winnebago, let's talk about this for just a second. Like if we went into that, I guess my only question is like, how many stains are in the Winnebago? Like if we went into that Winnebago with a MTV Room Raiders blacklight, like would the whole room just like glow?
Probably. What I imagine the inside of that Winnebago to look like is just messy, and then the bar is like pristine with like really, really nice like bottles of alcohol. You gotta impress the lady.
Right. Everything else is just a total mess, and there's just like, oh, it's gross. But that bar, man,
yeah.
You want your what do you want? You want some Johnny Walker Black Label? Like we got it all for you, girl.
Yeah. Why doesn't this bed have any sheets on it though?
What's with all the plastic coverings on everything?
Oh man.
That I honestly like. I could have like I do want to know like some juicy details, but I could have done without the image of Earl Woods taking just blondes back to this Winnebago of all like. I mean, at least freaking Tiger would get hotel rooms across from Ponderosa Steakhouses or whatever,
That's
or
true.
Perkins.
Yeah.
Perkins, I guess. Like, damn Winnebago. Like, that's got to be the grossest way to explain just
I don't know.
infidelity possible, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
It's not even discreet, too. Like, what
I know. Like,
how does Tina not find out? Like, they found out about Tiger sleeping at Dina's house the night before he came home from college.
Right.
How does she not know about the damn Winnebago?
I
Does
know.
she clearly doesn't do the finances in the house.
No. Yeah, it's like how it's so out in the open. Like, at least the way that John Groman explains it, it's like it's just like in your face, like this was happening. Like,
well, you
while
saw it in
Tiger was there, like he would be on the golf course while Earl is giving lessons to just random blonde women. So
yeah, you saw the Winnebago like parked in the background of one of the shots of like Tiger practicing as a kid.
Yeah,
as a kid, the Winnebago's just parked there, like right there off the green, and it like almost like a, like in a horror movie, the way like a creepy villain is like off in the distance, just staring you down.
Yeah,
that's what the Winnebago was. Yeah. It was staring us down in that one shot, and he was not discreet about it at all. And I don't know. It was simultaneously gross, but just wild. Yeah, really the best way I could say it.
Whew, man, it kind of made me want to buy a Winnebago.
I am kind of thinking like I'm gonna ask my wife like, hey, should we get a Winnebago? Do
we got it in the budget?
Yeah. I'll keep the bar. It's extremely pristine
for sure. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much part one summed up. I mean the last part is this. I guess Tiger's future or past love affair showing up at the end of the episode to kind of tease part two. So
yeah, do we know who she was? I don't know any of like Tiger's like any of the women that came forward or whatever.
Right. I know that there were a lot, but that's all I know. I didn't really know like names and details. So, but hey, I'm gonna learn. Well, Sunday.
No matter who it is, we know her name is going to be epic, just based off of this documentary's theme so far. Yeah. Anywhere from freaking Thomas Bonk to Gary Smith. So
yeah, the whole gamut.
Before we go, what are you looking forward to in episode 2? Is there anything like you really want to see?
Yes, my thing is like I've heard all about this over the years, but I want to understand his mindset about this Navy SEAL training. Like.
Yes.
It's like I've been so curious about it. It's like, was he just going to like give up golf and just go join the Navy SEALs? And like, if so, like, it sounds like he actually did like some sort of training. So I'm really interested to kind of get into that and figure out like what exactly that was all about. But yeah.
Yeah. I actually didn't even think about that till you brought it up. We covered that Navy SEAL stuff intensely, when I was working for Rome. And honestly, for as much as I love Tiger, that Navy SEAL stuff, like the stories that came out from it, because there was like this in-depth piece that came out on ESPN or Sports Illustrated or one of the major publications came out with this huge in-depth piece into his time with the Navy SEALs. And he was so like, he kind of big timed a lot of our veterans, or like Navy SEALs, I guess. And just the way that I read about how he treated them, and like, he would take them out to lunch, but he wouldn't pick up the tab. Just little things like that. And they were inviting him into this stuff that like most civilians don't ever get a look at ever.
Yeah.
And so I would love to get an inside look at that.
Yeah.
I would also just selfishly like to know how quickly his hair started to go, just because I'm at that age, like right. I want to know, like, was it quick? Like, was it fast? Because, obviously like he had a great head of hair throughout this entire episode.
Yeah.
But we know like around 2008, 2009, once the incident with Elon went down, the hair went fast. And it was like, we're talking like LeBron James level, like hairlines.
Yeah.
Just totally. So like, I'm hoping, I don't know. I just want to see what that I'd like to know the insides of that as well.
Right.
Also, more scuba diving talk too.
Yes, let's bring back scuba diving. But yeah, no, I'm with you on the hair because it's like I'm growing my hair out now because it hides my bald spot. So
and that's one of the reasons why I grew out my hair during quarantine.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrified that when I do cut it again, it's going to be like more is going to be gone than I realize.
Right. Well, yeah, man. So this weekend, part 2 will air on HBO, which is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, so on and so forth, depending on where you live. But yeah, Austin, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this.
Dude, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we finally got to collaborate on something together because I've obviously been a big fan of what you guys are doing with the Cineboys and just all the content you guys put forth. And I love that. You know me, like I probably love movies more than I love sports, and I love sports.
Right.
So the chance to get to talk about a movie that is actually about sports was awesome. So thank you for asking me to be a part of this. So
yeah, and also to you, man. Like, thanks for joining. And also, you can, if you're listening through Cineboys, you're not familiar with Cork Bats. We talk about it all the time. But you can check out the website corkbats.com. Follow Cork Bats on Twitter and Instagram at Cork Bats. You guys have a TikTok, right?
we do.
If you're on TikTok, you can follow Cork Bats on TikTok, YouTube as well, because if you're watching, that's where you're watching is the Cork Bats YouTube page where we, they post their stuff, we post our stuff, and we'll post this stuff. Also, Junk Drawer podcasts. Like, I hate to say it, but it's a good podcast, and I even though I listen to it angrily, I also somewhat enjoy it. Like, it's a good podcast.
Like like the Junk Drawer. Not to toot my own horn, but the Junk Drawer is a fun podcast. But let's be honest, the Cineboys could outdrive the Junk Drawer with a 3-wood. That question.
Well, hey, it's all we do. You guys have, you guys do so many other things. Like, we're just a podcast, man. That's all we know.
Hey, but you know what? We're all one happy family. So
yes,
that's for sure.
The Cork Bats family. Yes, we are this podcast included is part of the Cork Bats podcast network. Also, you can follow the Cineboys. That's our thing.
Yes.
At the Cineboys at Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also watch us through the Cork Bats YouTube page as well. But that's pretty much it, man. I'm excited for next week. So
me too. I know. Yeah. I'm glad we get it at very least another one of these because this was a lot of fun and there's so fascinating this Tiger Woods thing. And if you listen to this without even watching it, go watch it and then watch the second episode before next week's episode because I honestly I can't wait to break it down.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, man. We'll see you next week.
Do we golf clap on the way out?
Yeah.